Hello, everyone, and welcome to Police Off the Cuff Real Crime Stories. I'm your host, retired NYPD Sergeant Bill Cannon, a 27-year veteran of the NYPD. Happy Super Bowl Sunday. Should be a great day. We're going to give you an update today on the Ziz cult and Teresa Youngblood back in court. A few new things about this case. It sort of disappeared from the consciousness, but believe me, the FBI and law enforcement is still working on this case. There's still a few people at large, as we know, and we're going to give you an update on this case today. Anyway, so what we do know, of course, is that Teresa Youngblood has been back in court, and we're going to discuss the ramifications to that, what she's been charged with, and some other connections to the Ziz cult. Anyway, folks, hold on to your seats, hold on to your hats, hold on to your loved ones, hold on to your family members, your neighbor. You're about to enter true crime from a police perspective. You're about to enter the off the cuff zone, the police off the cuff zone.
There has to be some common sense.
They were the ones who called 911 to get him help, and now they're calling for change.
And now a word from our sponsor. The biggest betting weekend of the year is finally here, which means more updated odds and props for Super Sunday. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. We have hundreds of prop bets, MVP odds, and exclusive in-game live betting. BetOnline is your ultimate game day companion. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, BetOnline offers you everything and more to enhance your game day experience. Visit the website today and make game day the action count a little bit more. BetOnline, the game starts here. I'm going to get right into it right now, and I'm going to welcome our guest, frequent flyer, retired NYPD Sergeant, professor at Albertus Magnus College in Connecticut. Always available. Whenever I call him, he's ready. Welcome to the show, Professor Mike Geary. Mike, welcome.
Bill, good to see you. Thank you for having me on.
It's a pleasure. You know, so Mike, we know the Ziz cult. We've looked into it. Strange cult, right? But this person here, Teresa Youngblood, she is facing very serious charges. However, the charges right now are like use of a weapon or weapons possession, and we don't have a murder charge against her. And that is a little bit baffling, isn't it?
Yeah, Billy, you would think there would be. And I even commented like a week ago that I'd bet my paycheck that when the federal grand jury indicted her, it would be for murder, felony murder. But we don't see that yet. I looked Title 18, Section 1111 under felony murder. And it says murder under certain felonies, arsons, kidnappings, burglaries, and things like that. However, I think right now the U.S. Attorney's Office hasn't made a determination yet forensically whose firearm was actually killed Agent Mayland. So I think maybe they're a little bit hung up on that, on the causal link. But it is strange. It's just one more twist in this case. But she's not getting out of prison anytime soon. She's being held without bail. So that's the good thing. But it is very strange that she still has not been charged with felony murder.
You know, Mike, it also came out this week that they were, Teresa Youngblood and Felix Buckholt were renting in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. So the feds obviously went to this location, but this is new news, which also makes the tentacles of this Ziz cult spreading to other areas. And that also makes us want to know, well, where is Jack Lasotto, who's the leader of this trans cult? Where is he? It doesn't seem like they have a bead on him at this point. Where is Michelle Zako? Same thing. Two of the most infamous people from this cult still on the lam. I want to play this from a local news station in regards to Teresa Youngblood and Felix Buckholt renting in Chapel Hill, North Carolina.
Here at 5:30, two people connected to the shooting death of a Vermont Border Patrol officer have ties to Chapel Hill. Agent David Malland was killed last month.
And we want to show you Teresa Youngblood. She's one of the two people charged in this shooting. You see her there with the mask on. A hotel worker reached out to law enforcement after seeing her in tactical clothing, and a landlord in Chapel Hill says he saw her in the very same clothing when she rented a unit from him.
WRL's Monica Casey has been digging into this case, into Youngblood's North Carolina connection to all this. She's joining us now live. Monica, this is a complicated case.
It is. This affidavit says that Teresa Youngblood and Felix Buckholt were in a car with North Carolina plates at the time of that shooting in Vermont. Their landlord from Chapel Hill says when he went into Youngblood's unit to check on her plumbing, he found a stretcher in her living room. This all-black tactical-style clothing with protective equipment worn by Teresa Youngblood and Felix Buckholt caught the eye of a Vermont hotel worker. That person reached out to law enforcement, who then surveilled the two for days. Youngblood and Buckholt's landlord in Chapel Hill told the Associated Press he also saw them in that clothing often. He said the two had box trucks parked outside their units with an electrical cord running to one. Youngblood is charged in the death of U.S. Border Patrol agent David Malland on January 20th in Vermont. Buckholt was killed in the shootout. Agents found two cell phones wrapped in aluminum foil in the car. In the government's motion to detain Youngblood, they cite her journal entries about using LSD. The motion argues Youngblood's, quote, associations with other individuals suspected of violent acts also warrants caution. It says the person who bought the firearms Youngblood and Buckholt had is a suspect in a double homicide in Pennsylvania and a homicide in California. The AP reports that suspect is Maximilian Snyder, who was arrested Friday. A record search in King County, Washington shows Snyder and Youngblood applied for a marriage license in November of last year. The FBI also obtained a warrant for the car in this case. In that car, they found tactical gear, including a helmet, night vision goggles, two-way radios, and shooting range targets. Youngblood's next court date is set for this Friday. Live in Chapel Hill, Monica Casey, WREL News.
So interesting, but I don't think all of that information actually was accurate, because Maximilian Snyder is incarcerated right now in California for the murder of this man you see up on the screen, Curtis Lind. So that the case has been updated, changed a bit. Mm-hmm. And I think more accurately would probably be that the main suspect in the killing of Richard Zako and Rita Zako is their daughter, Michelle Jacqueline Zako, along with Jack Zizla Soto, who's the leader of this trans cult. So the FBI and law enforcement isn't giving us any clues, but it doesn't make a lot of sense that Maximilian Schneider is the shooter of the Zakos when, you know, he's being charged with the killing in California of Mr. Lind here, of Curtis Lind.
Yeah, Billy, when you look at it, who had most to gain? Who had the motive? And it looks like it would be the Zako, the transgender Zako, Michelle Zako, I think her name is now. Snyder, you know, it was part of the gang that attacked Mr. Lind in 2022. And then he's also, now he's charged with the actual murder of Lind in January 17th, 2025. But you know, right before he is going to go to trial on the other case. So that's a first degree murder under California law. So he's facing life without the possibility of parole. And it looks like with the Zako, that poor couple, Michelle Zako is the one. And I think right now she's jumped to the top of the list as suspect number one in that case because of the fact that she would be the one who would benefit the most out of the Zako's estate. because they were, upper middle class people. They had money. We also think that Ziz, that person that you showed on the screen, he's the leader of the cult. And when the police wanted to interview Michelle Zako, he was hiding in a bathroom of a motel room, and so acting dead, like he was unconscious. Really bizarre stuff. Unfortunately, they gave him bail, and he's into the wind, sadly. But this is what happens. But at the time, nobody understood really the depth and tentacles. Now we're going from California, you got Vermont, you got Pennsylvania, now you have North Carolina involved. So this couple has this little gang here, this little cult. They actually have some resources and possibly the ability to hide out for quite a long period of time, living out of trucks and trailers. And you look at these pictures, it's kind of rough. They're not really living high in the hog. They're living pretty primitively. So he could be in any number, unfortunately, any number of states at this point. But yeah, we think that the shooter for the Zakos was their daughter.
Mike, one of the thing that begs questioning is, what was their end game? What was their goal? All right, they have this transgender cult, Ziz. They were violent because they killed this man here, Curtis Lind, and prior to killing him, a year before that, they attacked him, and you could see he lost his right eye. So what was their end game? What was their criminal activity of choice that they were involved in? Were they looking to change the world in some nefarious way? Were they radicalized? Were they looking to conduct violent operations, terrorist activities? What was their goal? That's not clear to any of us right now.
Yeah, Billy, it isn't. They didn't seem to have an express purpose of changing political views about, what we talk about Mangione case, about the public's perception maybe of healthcare in the United States. Nothing lofty like that. They were very bright. Some of them did have jobs for a while. Some of them did win awards, and the Zako, Michelle Zako, had money. But I'm thinking, as I'm doing more research on this, just like Mr. Lind out in California, they were perfectly content to live pretty roughly in poor means until they were threatened. Mr. Lind is like, you haven't paid me rent. I know it's COVID time, but you haven't paid me rent, and you need to pay me rent. This is my property. And I think once they felt threatened, it was like, okay, we're going to kill Mr. Lind. And he even testified earlier on to the police that he saw acid, and he thought that they were going to kill him and then melt his body with acid. So really strange stuff. So these are people who want to be by themselves, but if they're threatened with economic reality, oh, you have to pay rent, they can turn on people. Same thing with Zako. She was due, I think, some sort of money from her parents. It seemed like there was a savings bond or some sort of savings account that she was supposed to get control of. And that's, we think, when the shooting happened. And so therefore, it doesn't seem like they're angry at law enforcement to start with. They're angry at anybody that threatens their way of life, that threatens their existence, and they will strike out mortally and do not mind killing. It's this really strange group because there's no outward, overall professed idea that we're going to change the world. Really strange.
And on the screen, you see Michelle Jacqueline Zako and the parents, Richard Zako and Rita Zako. Now, you're right that this was her connection to money, and undoubtedly she would have been the heir to their estate. But I wonder if in a will, if someone's murdered, if that disqualifies. Well, you're the attorney. If that disqualifies the person. Like if you just kill someone to get their money, I would think that would disqualify you from inheriting it.
Oh yeah, no, that is a big disqualifier. Oh yeah, you cannot take part in the murder of someone to collect on their will. Oh yeah, that's an automatic disqualifier. Yeah, that's it.
Or else you'd be seeing people getting killed left and right.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Not that that's funny. It's not funny, but it's just a thought. I want to play this again. This was from WRAL PTZ, my NBC, again about the court appearance of Teresa Youngblood.
The woman charged in connection to the killing of a U.S. Border Patrol agent has been indicted by a federal grand jury.
21-year-old Teresa Youngblood was back in federal court this afternoon to enter a plea for the first time. NBC5's Anna Goober was in court. Anna, what else did we learn today?
So, Brian and Liz, the prosecution also read off a lengthy list of items that are expected in discovery. Teresa Youngblood also waived her right to a speedy trial to give her counsel plenty of time to prepare ahead of her pretrial date.
Teresa Youngblood pleading not guilty in court Friday after a federal grand jury indicted the 21-year-old of 2 charges: using a deadly weapon and interfering with a federal employee using a firearm to commit a violent crime. Court documents obtained by NBC5 allege Youngblood fired a .40 caliber Glock handgun during a traffic stop in Coventry on January 20th. Border Patrol agent David Chris Mayland was killed in the exchange of gunfire. Youngblood was accompanied in the car by German national Felix Bockholt, who was also shot and killed. During Youngblood's arraignment, the prosecution went through a list of items expected in discovery, including reports from multiple law enforcement agencies, dash and body cam footage from state and local police, an autopsy report, photos and physical evidence of the items found in the vehicle Youngblood was driving at the time of the shooting, an interview with Youngblood, and more. A judge agreed to waive Youngblood's right to a speedy trial and granted her attorney 90 days before her pretrial date to review the evidence and prepare a defense.
And among the people who were in court today, were 3 people who had signed in with the last name Youngblood. But when I tried to ask them how they were related to Teresa Youngblood, they immediately declined to comment. We now know Teresa Youngblood's next pretrial date is set for May 8th. We're live in Burlington. Anna Goober, NBC5 News.
You know, one things that make that bizarre to me also is that the Vermont Border Patrol, they knew about this group and they were on them, surveilling them for about a week. And when they ultimately pulled them over on January 20th, there was allegedly 3 Border Patrol cars on the scene, and that the shooting didn't go down for about 20 or 25 minutes after the car stop. All of these factors aren't really put out there for everyone to digest, but that's pretty bizarre. First of all, if they knew about these people, Teresa Youngblood and Felix Bockholt, they knew they were dangerous. They knew they were wearing camouflage gear. They probably knew that they were armed. I question, how does a 21-year-old woman transitioning and another a woman get the jump on Border Patrol and kill a Border Patrol officer? To me, that's quite strange. Was there some way that the Border Patrol officers' guard was let down, that they didn't see these people as a threat that they clearly were? And there was a gunfight. Teresa Youngblood was shot, and Bockholt was killed by the Border Patrol agents. We've mentioned this before, Mike, and we don't know, and we almost hate to bring this up, but could have the Border Patrol agent David Milan been killed by friendly fire? And that has to be asked. But that still should not affect the charges against Teresa Youngblood. She should still be charged with murder because her actions caused the actions of the Border Patrol, which resulted, and I'm not saying it was friendly fire, I'm just saying it could be. But that's one of the things we're questioning. And also, the judge just they waived the speedy trial thing. When is the federal government going to slap a murder charge on her?
Yeah, Bill, I've read a number of news reports, and you're right. There is some sort of issue involving who actually fired the firearm, who handled the firearm and fired it that killed Mayland. And I think the body cam body cam cameras are going to be a great help. You've got a number of different agencies. They should have that all by now. They should have gone through it by now. You can have the vehicle dash cam, and they should find that, because in every state in the union, it doesn't matter in this kind of case who fired the fatal shot, whether it's friendly fire or not. The fact is that, they caused the crime to happen and so there's a causal link between her actions and the death of Mayland. So it seems rather strange. I think the prosecution is going to take their time with that because they want to represent, they don't want to go and represent anything before the judge that may be inaccurate. They could always do a superseding indictment in the next couple of weeks if they wish. She's due back in court May 8th, and that will be they'll probably get some sort of preliminary discovery from the prosecution. The defense team will get that, and then they'll look to set a preliminary trial date probably later on in the fall, is my guess of what's going to happen there. But you're right, it is strange. They may do car stops very differently than we did in the NYPD. We were told to be, you have to take charge of that car stop. You have to be aggressive. You have to take control. You have to make sure you've got eyes on everybody. There are many times where I do a car stop and ask for assistance of one other unit just to feel more safe, because this way, if you can actually kind of control that situation really well, and the people in the car know that you're in charge, they may not try something where otherwise they might. It's possible that as you look at this case, that they probably were going through the license, the registration, the insurance. They're probably trying to figure out what Buckholtz's status was, because there was some issue about whether or not he was in violation of some sort of visa. And so they probably were sitting around waiting for some communications from their headquarters and deciding what to do. And there probably was a lull in attention. Because you've got the two females. And so they probably were like, okay, we've got this completely under control. And unfortunately, they had not taken anybody out and gotten the firearms off of them and held on to them. They allowed the two people in the car each to have their firearm. And that was a fatal, mistake. But sadly, I think that's what happened.
Mike, I never ever felt, and I did hundreds, thousands of car stops. I never felt comfortable to being on the side of the road for a long period of time. Whenever you do that, advantage goes to the perp car, not to the police. You have to make, especially if it's a felony car stop, you have to make the people being stopped as uncomfortable as possible. You don't let them feel comfortable. You don't let them feel like they have the upper hand. And I don't ever like to also criticize law enforcement when we don't know exactly what happened here. Mm-hmm. But something bad resulted in this car stop. So we're trained to think, to sort of conduct a inventory after something happens, to sort of dissect what we did right and perhaps what we did wrong. And something went horribly wrong here. And I've said it a million times. How does a 21-year-old female get out of a car banging with a .40 caliber and kills a Border Patrol officer when there were 3 cars on the scene?
Right.
How does that happen? They must have let their guard down. How did she feel comfortable enough to get out of that car or from inside the car even, if that's what occurred?
Right.
Fire the weapon at them. How did she feel comfortable, empowered enough to do that? That is the question I have, Mike.
Yeah, it could be that she and Buckholtz were very, very nervous about what was going to happen to them. Maybe him being detained and her being detained, and maybe the fact that the police now are in control of the situation and they may find out a lot more about what's going on. Remember, they got the multiple radios and phones. They got the radios, they got the equipment, they got the firearm, the 2 firearms, and they have the laptops. Maybe they thought that was really going to be the end of their time in the Ziz movement, and they were going to be incarcerated. Perhaps it was almost like one of those things where you're faced with, okay, the jig is up, it's over, and I'm just going to shoot it out. Maybe it was almost like their own death wish in a way.
So you're saying they felt they were pushed into a corner.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe. And they felt like they had to reassert control, shoot it out in some sort of last minute desperate gamble, you know?
Absolutely. Again, this is a local TV station. We'll play this.
Youngblood was in that federal courtroom in a mask and had her arm in a sling. She had been at Dartmouth Hitchcock Hospital for a couple of days after that shooting. Last week, Youngblood and Felix Bockholt were pulled over by Border Patrol agents in Vermont after they had been under surveillance for nearly a week. Agents discovered Bockholt appeared to have an expired visa. Court documents show the pair were carrying tactical gear, guns, and other suspicious items inside the car, which was registered to Bockholt. Prosecutors say during the traffic stop, Youngblood pulled out a gun and started shooting at agents. She, Bockholt, and agent David Chris Mayland were all shot in the exchange. Bockholt died at the scene. Agent Mayland died from his injuries at a local hospital. Court documents also say that the guns Youngblood and Bockholt used came from a person of interest in a double homicide investigation in Pennsylvania and another homicide investigation in California. Now, Youngblood is facing 2 federal gun charges. If convicted, she could be sentenced to life in prison. She will remain behind bars until at least Thursday when she has another hearing.
Again, very bizarre here. And again, I think this may have been from the earlier report. I think the guns did not come from Maximilian Schneider. I think the guns came from Michelle Jacqueline Zako.
That's right.
So I think the initial reports were incorrect. And then as they were updated, it was determined that the guns came from Michelle Jacqueline Zako. Again, her parents, Richard Zako and Rhea Zako, you see in the thumbnail on the screen, were murdered in 2022, I believe it was. And no one has been charged with that double murder.
Yeah, Billy, this is, a very strange case. It's like every time you peel one layer of the onion and you go deeper and deeper to the center, it's getting stranger and stranger. And then you realize how many places these people have infiltrated, where they have some sort of power base where they feel very comfortable. They were in North Carolina. They're living pretty rough. They were in California. They were living pretty rough. They were, Michelle Zako had bought property that for like $15,000, $20,000, not much, in rural Vermont. So maybe they were looking to set up some sort of headquarters there because, you've got the law enforcement right on them in California. Maybe they felt like the rest of them would get arrested and charged with various crimes. But, the FBI seems to be, going very slow with this, but it doesn't kind of give a lot of the public reassurance the way they're doing it. They're very, very reticent to put out bulletins, but hopefully, with the information they got, they'll step up their, efforts against this group, and then we'll see a lot more, raids on various, complexes they have and equipment they have and residences they have, whatever state it's in. But this is a quickly evolving story that is changing by every couple of days.
Absolutely. So, folks, that's our update today. And again, the murderous trans cult. And there's the leader, Jack Ziz Lesotho, who you see in the thumbnail on the screen. Anyway, I want to thank everyone for watching today and have a wonderful Super Sunday. And if you're from Europe or from other that doesn't watch the Super Bowl, I apologize because not everyone watches American football, but today is a big day for people across this country. The Super Bowl is just a big spectacle, and it gets probably billions of views worldwide. Anyway, so that is our update on this case. As things come in and if we get more information, we will absolutely update you on this case. But until then, have a great day, everyone. From myself, Bill Cannon, and Professor Mike Geary, we'll see you the next time. Have a great day.
One episode just ain't enough.